The events that happened at the Astroworld Music Festival are ones that should never be repeated. It was nothing short of a tragedy that ended up leaving 9 people dead and countless others with severe injuries. After a short wait, Travis Scott finally opened up as to what happened and how he was handling the incident that is now being called a mass casualty event. Be sure to watch until the end of the video to find out why accountability is important in situations like this. What happened at Astroworld? The Astroworld Music Festival, which took place in Houston, Texas, was one that was highly anticipated by fans of Travis Scott, and the night could have been almost a dream come true had it not been for such a tragedy. The night ended up turning into what police and reporters are referring to as a mass casualty event, whereas of right now, 9 people have died. It would seem like the event was doomed from the start, with some concert goers claiming that they left early because they saw how bad it was going to be. The event pulled a massive crowd of around 50,000 people, all of which were there mainly for the purpose of seeing Travis perform. However, as the time for him to set the stage grew closer, the level of unrest in the crowd grew and things turned tragic. Apparently, people began being crushed by one another as they began to push toward the front of the venue. This meant that people in the front of the venue were being forced up against the barricade, so they had to push back, leaving the people in the middle of the crowd to be crushed and fall and trample all over one another. Some recount the tragedy, saying that at one point someone fell over and it created sort of a domino effect. And as more and more people toppled on top of one another, the people underneath struggled for air.
My rib cage was so squished that I couldn't expand my chest, expand my lungs to catch a breath.
On the night of the tragedy, there were believed to be 8 people who passed away due to varying reasons, whether it be lack of oxygen or practically being crushed to death. However, tons of others were injured, and many were left in critical condition and fighting for their lives. As of the time of making this video, the death toll is now up to a total of 9 people. Bardi Shahani was a 22-year-old who died from her injuries on November 10th after fighting for her life for days in the hospital. And there are still many others just like her who are currently on ventilators with family beside them, just hoping that they can pull through. Travis Scott reacts and reaches out. The hours following the incident, fans of the performer, and practically anyone in the world who had heard about what happened at the event, were waiting to hear what Travis would have to say about what happened. There was nothing from him for almost a full day, but eventually, he did end up dropping a video where he reacted to what happened at his show. Travis Scott posted a video of himself finally speaking on the tragedy that had occurred at Astroworld. People had been waiting to hear what he had to say about it and how something like this could have possibly happened in the first place. So it was good to finally hear from the man himself. He took to social media to post a black and white video of himself letting the people know what's going on in his mind at the moment.
Honestly, just devastated, and I could never imagine anything like this just happening.
He begins the video by sending his prayers out to the 8 people who sadly died at his event, as well as all the people who had been severely injured in the chaos. In the video, he talks about how he could have never imagined things turning out the way that they did. He claims to have stopped the show multiple times when he thought something was wrong in order to allow people to get the help that they desperately needed. Travis has been apparently working closely with everyone involved in the incident, meaning the city, the police department, and everyone who might be able to help shed more light on what happened and what can be done about it.
We've been working closely with everyone to just try to get to the bottom of this. The city of Houston, HPD, fire department.
He wrapped up his message by saying, "If you have any information, please just contact your local authorities," in hopes that more people might come forward about what happened to them during the chaotic event. Accountability rather than conspiracy. Now, there isn't any way to defend what happened that night, and no one should be trying to. The events that occurred are a tragedy and should not have happened. From the sound of things, it all could have been prevented. According to some concert goers, there were early warning signs, including people rushing to the VIP gates and climbing fences to skip lines.
The crowd just started pushing and pushing, so we were against a fence, so we kind of like hopped over the fence just because we didn't want to be squished.
Security clearly didn't have a hand on the rowdy crowd, and on top of that, the performers should have been paying more attention. But one rumor that has been going around is that the event was some sort of ritual where people were injected with something and sacrificed. Like some sort of Illuminati nonsense, and that kind of thing is just ridiculous. As I said, there is no way to defend the events that happened or the fact that Travis and them didn't stop the show right away. But to turn it into some sort of conspiracy to push some sort of religious agenda is super disrespectful to anyone who lost their life or a loved one that night. Now, when it comes to accountability, I think that the show could have been stopped before it even started. From the way things sound, they were pretty dangerous right from the start. You have some people saying that it would have been impossible for them to know how to stop the show, but there are countless videos of people yelling at the stage and people working behind the scenes telling them what was happening.
2 fans begged for the festival to be stopped.
They put their own lives at risk as they desperately tried to get help for the victims.
This isn't the typical response from a venue or an artist. I mean, I've been in the middle of mosh pits at Lamb of God shows, and if someone falls or gets hurt, the show usually stops and people help them out. So that being said, something should have been done when people started falling and getting trampled. But to say it was some sort of satanic ritual takes away from the seriousness of the situation. Final thoughts. May anyone who lost their lives on that tragic evening rest easy. And be sure to keep their families in your hearts, because you can never know what they're going through right now. As for Travis Scott, hopefully this is a major eye-opener for him and he makes some changes in his performances to become more vigilant against tragedies like this. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. For now, be sure to subscribe to stay in tune with all of our hip-hop news and information. Be sure to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss our next upload. Until next time, stay safe out there.